Hello and welcome to MichelleMotivateMe.com. This is part of the Assertive Communication podcast series. The name of this podcast is Identify 3 Common Mistakes We Make When Trying to Say No. What are they? Number 1, we don't recognize the compliment. Number 2, we offer too many excuses. And number 3, we don't offer a solution. I like this podcast because you can use it in many different areas of your life. In the work environment, you can use it on a personal level, maybe not quite so personal in that you use it with your community center or house of worship, your church, synagogue, temple, mosque, or really personal with family members. They always tend to put a strain on our time management by asking us to do things. Okay, there is a 4-step process, and according to adult learning theory, even if you never look at this piece of paper that you've written this down on again, the very fact that you've written it down will help you to retain the information. So I will give you a moment. Please get a pen and a piece of paper, and here we go. Step number 1, say, "Thank you for thinking of me." Step number 2, say, "I am not going to be able to help you with that." Step number 3, you state one reason. Step number 4, you offer an alternative. Okay, what does this look like? Here we are in the workplace, and a coworker comes up and shows you a document and asks you to look at it for spelling mistakes and maybe some issues that she has with grammar. Okay, you want to follow the 4-step process. Here we go. Step number 1. Thank you for thinking of me. I'm glad that you recognize my talents with spelling and grammar. Step number 2, I'm not going to be able to do that for you. Step number 3, you state one reason, which may be, I am working on a deadline and I do not have any time for distractions. Step number 4, you offer an alternative. The best thing to do in this situation is to offer them to look at a style guide, a writing style guide that would assist them with grammar issues and spelling. And you may want to take a few moments to just show them the book and explain where the areas are that deal with grammar, and then if you have a dictionary in that work environment, you want to show them to check their spelling. Or you could show them on Microsoft Word the spell check that's provided there. Now, I can just hear you saying to me, "Michelle, this takes more time to do the things that you're telling me to do than it is to just check the spelling or look at the grammar." Yes, initially it will take more time, but what you're doing is training this individual to help herself and not come to you to solve all of her problems. And the other special benefit to doing it this way is that other employees will not follow suit. Because oftentimes if you become the go-to person, it's not just for one individual, it may be for many. And that's where you don't realize a lot of your time is being eaten up. Or maybe you do realize it, and that's why you're listening to this podcast right now. I know I'm asking you to change, and change is not easy, but you have to take a step somewhere. That's the work life. Now, one of the things that we want to do is look at this in other areas. And what you may be recognizing is your own people-pleasing behavior. What we're doing here in this podcast series is looking at your assertive communication or lack thereof. I want you to be able to have more time to do your own work, and also the benefit for other people is that they solve their own problems and don't look to you to solve all of their problems. So it's a win-win for everybody. Okay, what about your community center or your house of worship? Let's say you've been asked to chaperone an event. You want to follow the 4-step process. Thank you for thinking of me. I'm glad that you see me as somebody who is a team player and is able to help out from time to time. Step number 2, I'm not going to be able to do that this time. Step number 3, state one reason. So that may be that you have a family commitment. my recommendation is that you don't get into too much detail because it will sound like an excuse. So you state one reason. I'm not going to be able to help you with that. I have a family commitment on that same day. Step number 4, you offer an alternative. You may offer another night that you could be available, or you could offer them to ask another person who may be willing and available at that time. Okay, let's look at an area that's even more of a challenge, your family members. And when I'm working with people who have a challenge with assertive communication, I never want to go to an area that's really, really complicated. For example, I wouldn't pick you being assertive with your boss or you being assertive with your mother-in-law or your father-in-law. These are really complex relationships oftentimes, and if you're having a problem being assertive, you want to start small. You want to start with something a little bit easier. So I'm going to say a cousin. Let's say a cousin calls up and asks you to water the plants while he's out of town. Now, he lives about 40 minutes outside of the area that you live in, so this is quite a hike to get over there. You want to follow the 4-step process. Step number 1, thank you for thinking of me. Step number 2, I'm not going to be able to help you with that. Step number 3, I have an obligation at work and I'm going to need to stay late every day this week, so I will not be able to get to your house on time in order to water those plants. Step number 4, offer an alternative. Maybe there's a service in the area that can do that for him, or you could recommend one of your cousin's neighbors that may be able to help water the plants. Okay, that's it. I am looking for you to take the plunge and take a risk and say no, and then I will be very excited to receive your success stories. Send them to me at michellemotivateme.com.